The drama begins on the rooftop of a tall building where a man named Sanj Hyuk, who is an angel, stands. His life changed when he lost his wings 500 years ago, since then trying to live among humans, holding a gun which he points at another man standing in the street waiting for a girl. From the rooftop, Sanj is shot by the man below, but the bullet is strange, emitting a beam that hits him without causing harm. At that moment, he calls out to the girl who was with him, looking at her with strange loving eyes, and Sanj manages to leave a fiery card with her. The same thing happens to her. The shot hits her but doesn't hurt, and she looks at him with the same loving gaze, as if Sanj had planted love inside her. He loudly tells her he fell in love with her at first sight and wants to go on a date with her, making people around her laugh at his words. But she walks to him and asks for his phone, writing her number on it as a sign of acceptance. Sanj then enters his house, finding it in chaos, with two people, his friends, playing games, and a dog beside them that strangely transforms into a human and back into a dog. Sanj gets annoyed by the mess and decides to clean everything, but one of his friends interrupts and tells him he must bring them food and that they're about to go to work. Their job is shooting arrows at people to plant love inside them, just as Sanj did earlier. Sanj remembers that 500 years ago, he made a grave mistake, accidentally causing the death of many people while trying to plant love in their hearts. Because of this, his friends were punished by being trapped in the world they're in, one of them transformed into a dog and another into a human. In a different place, at Bobi Animal Hospital, the veterinarian is frustrated, saying since she opened her clinic opposite Dr. Bobby's hospital, no one has come to her clinic. The hospital's name is Goji Dong Animal Hospital. A man enters the clinic to check on his dog, telling the doctor that it isn't eating or drinking well. After examining the doctor finds its condition fine, but the owner responds saying the problem is with him. He explains he has no appetite because on his first day in the city, an angel descended from the sky, struck his heart with an arrow, and planted love for her inside him, giving her a rose and asking her to kiss him. One of the staff at the clinic feels jealous, but another reassures her that his confession of love is meaningless because everyone who confesses love to her gets harmed. From that moment, Dr. O decided to open an animal hospital because animals don't get hurt. She goes to a fortune teller resembling a shaman and asks why every man she loves gets harmed. He replies that in her past life, she committed a grave sin, and upon being reborn, she will be punished for 500 years. He tells her she must climb a mountain called Anwangong, face east, and there she must beg for forgiveness. On the 1000th day, a person will appear who will be her destined one. He says she must do this, adding that he sees someone will die and 3 others will be injured, mentioning numbers she doesn't understand. Oh, and her friend leave the place and witness an accident right in front of them. Discovering the license plate numbers of the 2 cars involved match the numbers the fortune teller mentioned. In one car, 3 people are injured while another person appears clearly dead, making her recall what was said to her. She quickly returns to the place but finds the fortune teller gone. On the peak of Anongjasan Mountain, where O goes as the man said, she meets Sanj, who captures her attention with his beauty, saying he looks like an angel. She returns to her friend, saying she has climbed the mountain 993 times, only 7 more to go, and she will meet her destined person. In another place, at a place called Love Restaurant, Sanj and his friends, including the one transformed into a dog, are present, discussing their attempts to spread love among people, saying they've lived among humans for 500 years, but aren't from here. Inside Sanj's house, his friends call him, telling him to return home and bring them food. At that moment, he's on the mountain, deciding to go back, but a car blocks his vehicle, so Sanj enters a nearby restaurant to ask about the car's owner. He finds O there, but she faints as soon as she sees him, having drunk too much juice. The restaurant owner asks someone to carry her and pay her bill, but Sanj decides to pay and asks again about the car's owner. He finds him, asks him to move his car, and Sanj gets into his car with him, asking O where she lives, but she doesn't answer, only asking for another juice. On the way up the mountain, a woman searches for her dog, finds it, but also discovers human skeletons buried there, deciding to immediately report it to the police. They arrive and find the skeletons are the bodies of 2 missing high school girls. Finding their bags and personal belongings, deciding to conduct DNA analysis. O wakes up later, finding herself at the police station, asking the officer why she's there, and he says someone brought her there after finding her sleeping in the street. The officer calls Sanj, delivering bad news that after conducting DNA analysis on one of the girl's bodies, it turned out to be his ex-girlfriend, Jung Eun. Sanj rushes to the officer, upset about his lost love, remembering her words and how much she loved him, and recalling the time she disappeared. Sanj returns to Love Restaurant, where the manager gives him a ticket to the K-pop exhibition, and Oh returns to the restaurant hoping to see Sanj, who remains in her mind since their meeting. There she meets a girl, befriends her, and exchanges phone numbers to meet again. At Gojidong Animal Hospital, Dr. Oh enters with her assistant, who gives her a ticket to the K-pop exhibition, the same ticket Sanj has, and Oh repeats her plan to attend the exhibition. At the same time, Sanj-hyuk goes there. Inside the exhibition, Oh meets Sanj, recognizing her from before, and she remembers him, asking why he left her at the police station. He replies that the restaurant owner made him pay her bill and carry her personally, and he asked her for her home address, but she didn't respond, so he decided to take her to the police station. Oh, thanks, Sanj, saying if she sees him again, she'll call him the knight in shining armor for saving her, and says how much she wishes to have a lover. As Sanj looks at her, trying to help her, she runs to him and warns him not to fall in love with her, saying everyone who falls in love with her gets hurt. At the police station, officers investigate the disappearance of a girl whose photo was captured by a camera at the last place she was seen, near the mountain restaurant. It turns out this girl is the same one Oh befriended and sat with at the restaurant. Surveillance footage shows witnesses who saw the man with the girl before she disappeared. First, the restaurant owner. Second, the owner of a real estate agency next to the restaurant. And third, Dr. Oh. While police review camera footage of places where the girl disappeared, they notice something strange. A man standing by a car, pointing a gun at the driver, and that man is Sanj. At that moment, Sanj was trying to make the driver fall in love with his dog, but all that appeared to police was the opposite. Returning again to Sanj and Oh at the K-pop exhibition, Oh's expression shows she feels something for Sanj, and Sanj clearly feels the same. As they exit the exhibition and she heads home, she meets Sanj again, as if fate is bringing them together by coincidence. On her way home, a nurse from the hospital calls her, saying a dog is in critical condition and needs urgent surgery, so Oh rushes to the hospital, breaking a traffic light, which Sanj sees and finds strange, so he decides to follow her in his car and waits outside the hospital. She stays a long time, but he waits. When she finally leaves the hospital, Sanj follows her until she reaches home. Sanj reflects, saying something strange about Oh is that she has no red love strings, stating everyone should have red love strings indicating they'll find love someday, but oddly, Oh has none. At the police station, officers trace the man whose car Sanj was standing by through the car's license plate, go to him and ask him to help find Sanj, believing he intended to harm him. But the man denies it, saying Sanj helped him find his dog. Police search the mountain for clues about the missing girl, and an officer visits the restaurant owner near the mountain, where the girl was last seen with Oh and her friend. The officer visits Dr. Oh at the hospital because he wants to adopt the dog she operated on after learning its owners died in an accident. It's clear from his gestures and flirtation that he's attracted to her. Sanj enters the hospital, finding Dr. Oh sitting with the officer, feeling angry seeing the officer flirting with her and her laughing with him. In the restaurant, a strange man enters, staring at the owner strangely. Suddenly, from the nearby mountain, police find the restaurant on fire. The officer arrives to find an ambulance and many people, his assistant saying a major fire just occurred. The officer enters and finds the restaurant owner dead, and suddenly receives a call, quickly leaving the scene, going to another location. The real estate agency owner, the second witness who saw the man with the missing girl, but finds him dead. Dr. Oh finishes her work and leaves the hospital, feeling someone is watching her, starts running. Someone appears and chases her. She falls. The person approaches. She asks who he is, but he doesn't answer, coming closer as if trying to kill her. But Sanj suddenly appears, rescuing her, hitting the attacker. She's shocked by what happened, especially since Sanj wasn't harmed, as anyone close to her usually gets hurt. But Sanj remained unharmed. Oh clearly shows joy at Sanj's actions, and he asks about the man who tried to kill her, but she doesn't know him. She asks why Sanj was there near her at that moment, and Sanj replies he was watching her, so she thanks him, saying she's glad he wasn't harmed because of her. At a nearby restaurant, Oh meets her friend, telling her what happened, saying she can't believe someone was close to her and wasn't harmed, and says Sanj is the man destined for her to love. But her friend interrupts, saying she hasn't climbed the mountain 1,000 times yet, and the man destined for her will appear on the 1,000th climb. Sanj returns home, finding a head wound but not caring, continuing to think about Oh and her words. Oh climbs the mountain again, now only 6 times left, meets the person she's destined to love. And on the mountain peak, she begs forgiveness for her past life sins, praying that her destined lover be Sanj. As she descends, she goes to the restaurant where she used to sit, learns a fire occurred and the owner died, feeling sad. At the police station, the officer says he suspects someone poisoned the restaurant owner, causing the fire while she was cooking. At the same time, police try to find any clue leading to the girl who was with the missing girl, the one being Dr. O, but keep searching cameras without success. The next day, O calls Sanj, asking him to visit her at the hospital, discovers his head wound, tries to treat it, and asks him to have dinner with her. Returning to Love Restaurant, Sanj reserves a dinner date with O. She arrives, likes the place, asks Sanj how he knows it, and he replies he and his friends always came here. They agree she'll pay, but as they leave, she's surprised to find he paid, making her feel he did this to avoid meeting her again. So she leaves, upset, and Sanj calls after her, but she doesn't respond. O returns home, clearly irritated and sad, and at the same time, Sanj sits at home, clearly angry and upset too. The next day, O again climbs the mountain, continuing to pray that Sanj be her destined lover. In another place, Sanj attends the funeral of his old girlfriend, whose body police found buried near the mountain. Sanj climbs the mountain, speaking to himself, regretting not catching her killer. As he descends, he meets O, who is also descending, and they go together to a nearby restaurant. After Sanj and O leave the restaurant, Sanj calls a driver to take them home, and when the driver arrives, hands him the keys. Sanj notices marks on the driver's hand, realizing he's the same person he fought with when chasing O. Sanj asks O to report the driver to police, but the driver stops her, saying he'll tell the truth, but asks not to be reported. The driver takes them to Bobi Animal Clinic, opposite Dr. O's hospital, and the clinic owner says since Dr. O opened her hospital, her sales dropped and no one visits her clinic. She tried to scare her to make her leave, but didn't want to harm her. The driver says he works for her and agreed to do what she wants because she pays him well. They ask O to forgive them and not report them, and Sanj insists on taking them to the station, but O refuses, forgiving them. Sanj asks O not to walk alone again, to have someone from her family take her, but O says she's an orphan, telling him she was left at an orphanage at birth, raised, and grew up there. In elementary school, she met a boy, her first love, but from there the curse began. Anyone she meets gets harmed. O says despite everything, she won't give up, climbing the mountain every day to meet her destined lover, believing she has the right to love someone and create memories in a different time and place. In another time and place, 500 years ago, Sanj remembers what happened, causing him to lose his wings and live among humans. He was in a palace where a prince lived, and Sanj secretly watched a servant girl, noticing the red love strings connecting them, clearly attracted to her. As Sanj tried to shoot her with a love arrow, the arrow slipped, hitting him instead, increasing his love for the servant. Inside the palace, the servant overhears a strange conversation. The queen wants to kill the prince so her son can become king. The servant runs to warn the prince, but guards see her and chase her. She reaches a high mountain peak and falls, but Sanj catches her, rescuing her. As soon as the servant wakes, she rushes to warn the princess. At that moment, Sanj makes a grave mistake. He saves her from death, which he shouldn't have done. A powerful man appears, an angel like Sanj and his friends, surrounding them with a large ring of fire. Sanj passes through the fire, his wings burn, and he's expelled from the world he lived in. Returning to the present, at the police station, the officer's assistant finds a new clue about the missing girl, the one who was with her during the disappearance. The clue being that the girl had an umbrella with rose drawings, and that day, snow began falling. They rush there, but it's not her, though her house is in the same area where Dr. O lives. In another place, Oh returns home, meets Sanj waiting for her, tells her if she's looking for her destined lover, it's him, making her happy and laughing. But he interrupts, saying he doesn't mean that. He'll help her find the right man, asking her what qualities she wants in him. She gets angry and upset, and Sanj asks why she's angry, and she says she liked him. He was the man she was waiting for. Then leaves, feeling humiliated. Oh arrives at the hospital, and Sanj comes, determined to know the qualities of the man she's looking for. She asks why he wants to help her, and Sanj replies he wants to see her happy, not lonely, promising to do everything to help her find the right man. At Love Restaurant, Sanj searches for the right man for Oh but can't find him, realizing it's extremely difficult. Returning again to the officer, who forgets important things related to the girl he last interrogated, and when he reaches her house, finds her mother on her way home, and when she enters, finds her mother dead, hanged. From here, the officer sees links between the murders, noticing all people who died were witnesses to the missing girl. Sanj's thoughts turn to the ideal man Oh is looking for, and after a long time, Sanj finds a suitable man, sends his photo to Oh, but she rejects him, climbing the mountain peak again, praying that Sanj be her destined lover. At Sanj's house, he and his friends hear the news, learning about the missing girl's case and that all witnesses who saw her have died in different ways. Sanj notices this has happened before in his past life, when his girlfriend disappeared and her body was later found buried on the mountain. His friends notice the same pattern. Everything from the past life is repeating in their current life. Sanj tries to uncover the truth, solve the case, and find the person responsible for his girlfriend's death. Sanj calls a police friend, asking for the missing girl's address, saying he has suspicions about the case and wants to confirm them. Sanj goes to the missing girl's house, tries to talk to her sister, but she refuses. He decides to go to the station, talk to the officer about what's happening, telling him about his suspicions from his past life. He explains that in the past, before the victim was killed, the murderer left a red notebook at the victim's house, asking him to search the missing girl's house for this notebook. If found, it means the past is repeating. The missing girl is a new victim, and he urges the officer to find the criminal quickly before more crimes occur. He adds that the criminal appears on the day snow begins falling, leaving a red notebook for the victim a day before attempting to kill them. However, the officer doesn't believe him, telling him to leave, as Sanj was born after the old crimes occurred and couldn't have lived a past life. On the mountain, Oh climbs again, hoping to meet her destined lover, but this time carries Sanj's photo, placing it on the mountain, praying he be the one, saying only one climb remains. After descending, Oh remembers she left Sanj's photo there, so she quickly returns to get it, finding Sanj standing there, surprised by his presence, asking why he's there, and he replies he always comes here. She asks if he found her a suitable man, and he replies he's still searching. Oh asks him not to search anymore, saying Sanj is the man she's looking for, that she likes him. But Sanj gives a harsh reply, saying he pities her because she's an orphan raised in an orphanage, and for that reason, he decided to help her, but then left. His words hurt her, making her cry. Sanj tries to escape from Oh because he doesn't want to enter a new love relationship, continuing to think about his dead girlfriend and regretting losing her. The next day, Oh leaves home early, deciding to climb the mountain. It will be the 1,000th time she's climbed it. But on her way, a strange man watches her, and when she boards the bus, he follows her. At the hospital, the officer comes to adopt the dog, and as he leaves, notices heavy snow, and Oh's assistant asks a nurse to get an umbrella to protect her from the snow. The officer notices the umbrella is the same one he's been searching for. He asks the nurse where she had it when the girl disappeared, and the nurse replies it was with Dr. Oh that day. The officer quickly realizes Dr. Oh is the final witness in the missing girl's case. Sanj goes to the hospital to apologize for his harsh words, but doesn't find her, learning from staff that the officer was there, revealing she's the witness. Sanj realizes Oh is in danger, as all witnesses have died, and asks where she is, trying to reach her, learning she went to the mountain, so he rushes after her. On Oh's way to the mountain, the strange man continues following her, but she doesn't see him. On the mountain peak, she closes her eyes, praying the person she's destined to love appear, saying this is the 1,000th and final time she'll climb the mountain. She hears a strange sound from behind trees, feeling someone watching her, calling out, Sanj, believing it's him, the man she's destined to love. Sanj arrives at the mountain, finding an old man standing there. Remembering he appeared to him before in his past life, the old man begins speaking, reminding him of a past warning not to love a human, saying if he does, there will be bad consequences, and says he won't allow him to love. Sanj remembers his past life girlfriend fell from the mountain and died because he loved a human. That was the consequence. Sanj tries to push the old man away, saying he'll kill him if he stands in his way of saving. Oh, but as he tries, Sanj burns completely. His wings disappear, and he falls from the mountain. Oh, frightened by the sound behind the trees, moves away but slips, and before she falls, the officer suddenly appears, grabs her hand, rescuing her, becoming the first person to appear to her after her 1,000th climb. The officer asks O about the missing girl, saying she's the final witness in the case. O remembers that day, saying the criminal was a man in black, and the officer asks if she knows this man, and she says she saw him from afar. At the police station, Sanj appears, his body covered in severe burns, saying he wants to report O's disappearance on the mountain. Suddenly, O and the officer appear before him. O asks what happened to him and why he's injured, asking for a first aid kit to treat his wounds. At the station, police summon O as the final witness to the girl's disappearance since she was with her the day she vanished. The officer asks if she saw the man with the girl before she disappeared, but she says she didn't see him clearly. The missing girl's lover appears, and police suspect he caused her disappearance, bring him in for questioning, but have no evidence. However, they find blood traces in his car, and after analysis, discover it's the missing girl's blood. Sanj leaves the station with O, telling her not to tell police about the man with the missing girl, as it's dangerous for her life, just as it was for other witnesses. But O finds courage, saying she must tell police. At the police station, the officer finds a red notebook on his desk, remembering Sanj's words that the criminal leaves a red notebook for the victim a day before killing them. The officer decides to go to the missing girl's house, searches her room, and indeed finds the red notebook Sanj mentioned, taking it to his chief. The chief tries to understand its meaning, explaining that long ago, 2 high school girls disappeared, and police searched for a long time but found nothing, with witnesses. But all witnesses died, and each had the same red notebook. The chief at the time had no choice but to commit suicide, and since then, the case was closed, but unsolved. In another place, Sanj appears wherever O goes, saying he wants to protect her so much he carries her on his back instead of letting her walk, because police are chasing the criminal, and Sanj expects the criminal will try to harm her. He takes her home. The officer calls O, asking her to come to the station to continue the investigation, and she goes, with Sanj accompanying her, telling the officer not to ask her to come again. But O interrupts, saying she wants to help uncover the truth. The officer says he'll use hypnosis on her, helping her remember the criminal more clearly. She succeeds, remembering everything as if in a dream, describing the criminal's features, which match the missing girl's lover. O sees in the dream before waking that the officer is in a different time, not the current one, making her think the officer might be the man she's destined to love. Sanj finds in the missing girl's records a photo of a man with the same features O described as the criminal, deciding to watch him. When the man notices someone watching him, he runs. Sanj chases him, but loses him. At the same time, the officer watches the man the missing girl loved, the prime suspect. Sanj goes to O's house, seeing it safer for her, that he'll protect her if anyone tries to harm her. On another day, snow begins falling. At the station, they receive a call that another woman has disappeared, about 20 years old. The officer goes to the missing woman's house, searches for the red book found in every victim's home, but finds nothing. He sends his assistant to the store next to the woman's house, telling him to check for anything strange. When the assistant arrives, a man panics at the sight of him and runs, but Sanj appears in front of him, allowing the officer to catch him with Sanj's help, taking him to the station, but they can't prove anything, so they release him. Police review cameras near the store and find Dr. O was there near the missing woman, who bumped into a young man standing there, and they suspect him as the criminal because he appears in every camera before any disappearance or murder. The officer summons O for testimony, and she says she saw the young man, who was acting nervously. Police continue reviewing cameras, finding the missing woman boarding a bus with another girl. The officer goes to that girl, asking if she saw anything strange, considering her a witness. The officer arrives at the girl's house but finds she's been killed. O feels intense guilt, saying if she could identify the criminal, these crimes wouldn't have happened. The officer uses hypnosis on O again, helping her remember the criminal's appearance. She succeeds, describing all his features to the officer. The officer and his assistants try to find any clue leading to the criminal, surprised to find O present at every crime scene or disappearance. Sanj notices the same thing, saying O stays safe because he's always with her. At the criminal's house, many photos of Sanj hang on the wall. At the same time, the missing girl appears, tied with a rope, begging for help, but the criminal enters, kills her. At the station, the officer receives a sketch of the criminal, and his chief says another person was a witness to the old disappearances and was present then. The person enters, and it's Sanj, saying the criminal doesn't resemble the sketch. The officer is surprised because Sanj is too young to have been present during the old crimes. Sanj remembers long ago walking, finding a girl holding a red notebook, follows her, asks who gave it to her, and she says she doesn't know, realizing the girl will be killed, and agrees to escort her. The criminal appears, chasing her, but a car suddenly appears, hits him, allowing him to escape. At the police station, the officer asks Sanj how he knows the criminal's appearance when he's too young to have been alive during the old crimes. But Sanj acts cleverly, saying his father is the old chief who told him detailed information about the criminal. Sanj tells the officer the criminal didn't appear in his real form, wearing a mask made of makeup. At the same time, O tells her friend the same thing, that when she saw the criminal, he was wearing a mask, and also says during hypnosis she saw her past life, that she was the king's lover, who is the officer, and it was her wedding day, but she wasn't happy. O is surprised by what she saw. Sanj goes to the station again, telling the officer he noticed something strange. The criminal killed victims, stopped for 28 years, then resumed killings or abductions the same way. The officer is surprised, investigates, decides to visit families of victims from old crimes and their workplaces to get more information leading to the criminal. One place the officer visits is Hedam Orphanage, with Sanj accompanying him because the manager disappeared long ago after a fire. At the orphanage, the manager was present, and her assistant, who disappeared. When the manager sees Sanj, she asks if she met him before, saying he looks like an officer investigating the crime back then. But Sanj says they never met, as he wasn't born during the old crimes. At the station, the officer receives an anonymous letter, and when he opens it, finds a photo of himself resembling Sanj, or is Sanj himself, and is shocked, remembering the orphanage manager's words that he looked like an investigating officer from the time of the old crimes. O leaves with her friend, saying she can't stop thinking about Sanj, but notices he always ignores her, not knowing why, trying to send him messages but getting no reply for a long time. At the station, Sanj is present, and suddenly a woman enters crying, saying her husband knows another woman. Her husband enters with a girl, and Sanj suddenly intervenes, goes outside the station, climbs a tall building rooftop, takes his gun, shoots a love bullet at the man inside the station, making the man leave the girl he's with, go to his wife, apologize, and say he loves her. Suddenly, the officer appears behind him, having seen everything Sanj did, asking who he is. The officer draws his gun, points it at Sanj, showing the photos sent to him, asking how Sanj was an officer long ago, but Sanj denies it, saying the man in the photos is his father, but the officer doesn't believe him due to their resemblance. The officer asks Sanj about the two women with him, suspecting he tried to harm them, suspecting he's the criminal. Sanj asks the officer to examine the gun closely, and the officer finds it contains arrows, not real bullets. Sanj asks the officer to check who sent the photos, and the officer verifies with the post office whose address is on the envelope. And they say they sent nothing, surprising the officer. The husband of the first missing girl goes to the officer, asking to meet O, as she was the last girl with his wife before she disappeared. But the officer refuses, fearing for O, but goes to her at the hospital, determined to meet her, and she agrees. They sit, and he asks if she spoke to his wife about him, if she felt she still loved him, and says he knew she knew another man and suspects he caused her disappearance. The next day, the woman inside the station with the officer and Sanj goes to a place. When they arrive, she says she always dreams the girl from the store is in this place, running from someone trying to kill her, believing this is where she was killed, and also sees the criminal burying her in the mountain but doesn't know the mountain's location. They don't believe her, but O convinces them she's trying to help, which is why she dreams of her after hypnosis. At the place, they stop at an old house, and Sanj clearly knows the house well, saying it was his home 45 years ago, surprising them as he's younger than that. Sanj enters the house, finding old memories with his dead girlfriend, but the officer stays outside, meets an old woman, who says 3 young men lived in this house but left 40 years ago, and says she has photos of them, bringing the photos to the officer, who is shocked to find Sanj in the photos with his 2 friends and their friend who transforms into a dog. The officer enters the house, takes them, walks, and tells her not to see Sanj again, but she doesn't understand. Sanj assures the officer he has the right to love and protect O, and with Sanj holding one love arrow, he decides to let O fall in love with the officer as she loves him, throwing the arrow, but it doesn't affect him. At the criminal's house, where he holds the missing girl's bag, the one who was with O at the restaurant the day she disappeared, the criminal opens the bag, finds a paper with O's number, opens the girl's phone, sends a message to O saying she's alive and needs her help, sending the location, telling her not to tell anyone. O is shocked, decides to call the officer, verify the girl's number, and finds it's the same number that sent her the message. The officer asks why, but she doesn't reply. The officer suspects O, asking his assistant to check if the girl's phone was opened. And they're shocked to find the phone was opened and a message sent to O. They all run to catch O, but it's too late. O goes to the location in the message, and the officer calls her, but she doesn't see the phone, so he decides to go to the same place with his assistants. Sanj arrives at the station, surprised to find no one there, asks a staff member what happened, and rushes after them to protect O. Sanj calls O, and at the same time, the officer repeatedly calls. When O sees her phone and answers, her phone disconnects, and she can't talk to them. At the same time, O arrives at the location. The criminal watches her from afar. She enters, calls her friend, doesn't find her, but sees the criminal she saw before, wearing his mask. The criminal starts beating and choking O. As she tries to escape, she scratches his neck, but can't escape. The criminal approaches, grabs a tool to kill her. But at that moment, they hear a police car siren. The criminal leaves her and escapes. The officer arrives, finds O unconscious, finds her friend's body. Sanj arrives later, thinking the body is O's, but finds it's the missing girl. O is transferred to the hospital, enters surgery with very serious injuries. The officer and Sanj go to the hospital, worried about her. She comes out of surgery, wakes up, but remembers nothing except her past life. The officer asks what happened, if she saw the criminal's face, but she says it was dark and she couldn't see anything. The officer leaves the hospital. By chance sees Sanj's friends, the ones in the old photos from 40 years ago, watches them from afar, finds their behavior strange, and suspects them. At the same time, Sanj stays at the hospital, dreaming of her past life, realizing Sanj was her lover in the past life, but they weren't destined to be together, so she decided to end her life, be reborn, and live with him in a new life. At a company, the missing girl's lover appears, the one from the restaurant, found dead, and on his neck are the same scratch marks O made on the criminal when he tried to kill her. The man leaves the company, walks behind a female employee, his secretary. Police watch him because he's the prime suspect in the girl's disappearance and murder. The secretary walks, feels someone behind her, remembers the day before someone gave her a strange red notebook. The criminal suddenly appears, chokes her. She faints. He takes her. The next day, a colleague reports her disappearance, saying she didn't come to work. Police go to her home, don't find her, but find the red notebook. At the same time, the officer takes a DNA sample from the company director, takes cigarette butts from the place where they found the girl's body, and after analysis, find the samples match, confirming the company director and the girl's lover is the criminal, but they found out too late, and the criminal escaped, though the officer caught and arrested him. He tries to interrogate him, but he refuses to speak. The chief tells the officer to transfer him to prosecution. At the hospital, the officer sits with Sanj, suspicions growing against him. They drink juice, and the officer takes the juice can to analyze it, to uncover Sanj's truth. But they're shocked to find no DNA on the can, only fingerprints, and the doctor says this is impossible. In another place, the hypnosis doctor meets Sanj, telling him about something noticed during hypnosis. She was living a past life, just as O says. The doctor believes she was one of the missing high school girls long ago, and Sanj's lover was one of them. The doctor gives Sanj a report of his words. As Sanj holds the report, his hand disappears, and the report falls. By chance, the officer is in the same place, sees what happened to Sanj, increasing suspicions that he's not normal. When they see Sanj quickly run from the place, Sanj goes home, reads the report, shocked to find the doctor's words are true. O is his past life lover, and all the questions she answered were about his missing girlfriend's life. The officer goes to O, telling her about Sanj, that he's not human, and she must stay away from him until he uncovers his truth, showing her more evidence. But despite everything, she doesn't believe him, leaves, and as she walks, thinks about the officer's words, remembers Sanj's strange behavior, like not getting hurt when near her, as happens to others, and not being harmed when defending her from a stranger's attack, and many other incidents, deciding she'll climb the mountain again, because on the 1,000th climb, she accepted Sanj on the way, though she didn't go that day, saying now only one climb remains, and she'll climb the mountain to finally see the man destined for her to love. O climbs the mountain praying and finds Sanj appearing, calling to her, happy to see him, confirming he's her lover. The officer watches them from afar. The next day, Sanj goes to the officer, confessing he's the same person in the photos, but doesn't explain anything, making the officer anxious, having an assistant watch him. Sanj leaves with O, holds her hand, confesses his love, tries to make her happy, asks what would make her happiest. O replies she's happy when visiting the orphanage where she was raised. Sanj takes her to the orphanage, finds something strange, a paper with the same words the criminal writes in the red notebook before killing the victim. He takes the paper, shows it to the manager, asks who wrote this, and she says the previous manager, who disappeared during a fire, wrote it, and she used to torture and beat children. From this, Sanj discovers the criminal at the station was one of the children tortured by the manager at the orphanage, and as he grew, developed a complex killing girls the same way the manager tortured them. Sanj goes to the criminal, asking for the truth. O confesses to the criminal that he committed all these crimes, but despite his confession, there's an accomplice more dangerous than the criminal himself. Sanj believes the criminal didn't confess to his accomplice because he wants to commit his final crime, killing O. Sanj runs, goes to O at the hospital. At the same time, a strange man enters the hospital with a dog, clearly wanting to harm them, but the officer arrives. When Sanj arrives, he finds the officer there, feeling relieved for O. Sanj sees an old man and woman, and when they see him, they remember the investigator who appeared long ago but are surprised to find him still young. Sanj tells them he's the investigator's son, but they don't believe him, saying the investigator wasn't married and had no children. The officer especially suspects Sanj. By chance, the old man and woman are the parents of the girl who was among the missing high school girls long ago, Sanj's old lover, Young. At the station, the assistant sends the officer the paper Sanj found at the orphanage, with the same words written in the red notebook. The officer says the criminal is one of the children who were there, doing this after being tortured by the manager. But when he investigates the criminal they caught, finds he wasn't an orphan or raised in an orphanage, meaning he's not the real criminal, but strangely, he's controlled by the real criminal and confesses to him. O returns home, continues thinking about Sanj, trying to find a clue to his truth, remembering the photos the officer showed her, the old couple at the hospital saying he was an investigator long ago, and remembering she saw him in her past life as her lover. The officer goes to the hypnosis doctor, saying he always sees his past life in dreams, holding a large bloody sword. The doctor tries to understand. The officer sees the servant girl, who is O, sees himself dressed as a king, trying to make the servant love him or kill her with a sword, approaching the servant, trying to kill her, but she grabs the sword with her hands, getting injured. The officer notices in the dream the servant wears the same dress he saw when entering Sanj's place, surprising him. O goes to the old Sanj place, finds the ring, finds photos of her and Sanj in their past lives, but is shocked to find Sanj has wings in the photo, then remembers everything about her past life, that Sanj is an angel, and she jumped from the mountain to meet him again when reborn. She runs from home, finds Sanj waiting for her, telling him he knows everything she saw, saying in her past life she was his dead lover, one of the missing high school girls named Jung, and from the house in front of them, the old woman appears, the one who was with O at the hospital, who is Jung's mother, Sanj's dead lover. The woman asks them to enter, have dinner with them. They enter. Sanj remembers his dead lover. O remembers her past life, cries, asking Jung's parents to consider her their daughter. The officer goes to Sanj's old house, sees the ring the servant wore, sees the photos she held of her and Sanj in their past lives, and is shocked to find everything he dreamed was real. Sanj takes O home. She thanks him for being with her in her past and current life. Sanj is surprised she knows the truth. As O says goodbye, Sanj disappears before her, then reappears. Sanj sits with O, telling her about her past life. O says she jumped from the mountain because they weren't destined to be together, and a small child told her when she dies, she'll be reborn in a new life, trying to find the person she loved. As they talk, Sanj's hand disappears again, and O understands he's beginning to transform, returning to his world. She tells him she'll wait for him, confident they'll meet again. But Sanj tells her he'll disappear for a very long time, possibly thousands of years. O is upset by his words, saying this transformation is because he remains childlike and young, asking him to reject the transformation, wanting him to stay with her, not transform and grow old with her, saying his childish face doesn't suit someone 500 years old. Sanj tries to explain he can't choose. He's forced to transform, but O doesn't believe him, leaves, walking away upset. Sanj returns home, then goes to the officer, revealing his truth and his friends, that he's an angel, not human, and he and his friends are Cupid, the god of love. One of his friends tells the officer he saw him before, that he was a cruel king, showing the officer photos from Sanj's old house, asking about the people in the photos, saying he always sees the girl, resembling O, but she was a servant in her past life, and the officer is the man in the photo with the girl whom he sees in his dreams. Sanj replies to the officer, saying he killed him in his past life because he loved the servant. The officer is surprised, asking how he killed him when he's standing before him. Sanj replies he killed him 500 years ago, tried to kill the servant, and strangely, the king was reborn, becoming the officer, always standing between Sanj and O in their past and present lives. The officer finds a man at a farm, a car with an open trunk, finds a body inside, reports to police. The officer and assistants arrive. Learn the body is the secretary who disappeared from the company. Find under her nails traces of another person's skin, clearly from when she defended herself. After analyzing the skin, they find it belongs to the criminal in prison. They bring him for interrogation, but he denies it, saying he only killed his lover, asking to return to prison, clearly afraid, saying he'll be safe in prison, no one will harm him. Sanj goes to O in front of the hospital before she leaves, sees a man watching her from afar with the same features as the killer. O doesn't see Sanj. He runs after the man, but he escapes. Sanj can't catch him, fearing for O, deciding to stay with her all day. The next day, the criminal in prison falls ill, asks the guard for medicine. The guard leaves, leaving the door open, and a man appears holding a bag, frightening him. At the station, the assistants receive a call from the prison, rush, arrive, and find a man resembling the criminal was killed. A man enters the hospital, the husband of the missing girl after she was found dead in the restaurant with O, saying his dog is in danger. They examine him, say he needs a blood transfusion, but the blood bags are empty. A nurse goes outside to get blood, starts the dog's surgery. Suddenly the dog's owner speaks in a strange voice, and she remembers hearing the same voice when the killer attacked and killed her in her past life. The killer remembers seeing his wife cheating with the company director, decided to take revenge, killed his wife, caused the director's death, and threatened to kill him too, which is why he confessed to the murder, got imprisoned for safety, but the real killer entered prison, killed the director, and left unseen. The officer goes to the company, searches for anything related to the director, discovers in his office the red book the criminal gives victims, finds written inside that he will be killed. The officer realizes the director is also a victim, but knows too late. He says his phone rings, his assistant tells him the director was killed in prison, realizing the killer is still free, and now it's O's turn. He runs to her. At the hospital, the killer approaches. O grabs a scalpel, but suddenly her assistant enters, clearly fearful, not sure if he's the killer. The officer goes to O, finds her fine. Then Sanj arrives, telling the officer he wants to go with him. Sanj says long ago there was a teenage boy living in an underground basement in the area where crimes occur, and police ruled out this boy as a suspect due to his young age. Sanj says this boy is the husband of the missing girl after she left the restaurant. The officer suspects this man is the killer, asks his chief to send forces to search for him, searches everywhere, but can't find him. The officer goes to O, asking her not to leave home without Sanj until they catch the killer. The next day, O goes to the station, tells the officer the killer, and that she recognized him by his voice during hypnosis, and it was the husband of the murdered girl. At the same time, the officer takes O with him, arrives, receives a call, leaves the car to answer, finds his assistant saying they found the place where the killer is hiding. Sanj realizes at that moment a man from his past life appears, telling him O will die. Sanj quickly calls O to check where she is, but his phone disappears from his hand. He can't warn her. O remains in the car alone, containing a bomb no one knows about. Suddenly, the bomb explodes in the car, and the officer falls to the ground from the blast. Sanj finds a way to prevent himself from disappearing again, to remain in this time forever. His friend must shoot him with an arrow. Sanj insists, has his friend shoot him, succeeds, and returns after disappearing. Sanj knows O will die, manages to reach her location seconds before the bomb explodes. When the bomb explodes, Sanj appears in the sky, flying, carrying O in his arms, saving her at the last moment. The officer and O are shocked by Sanj. The killer runs when he sees him. Sanj asks the officer to take care of O while he chases the killer. The killer gets in his car, runs. Sanj chases him, but suddenly disappears, transforming into a point of light, as if chasing the killer. O tells the officer Sanj's wings are different from the wings she saw in her dreams. The killer reaches an abandoned house, remembers Sanj flying, feels fear, stands on a high floor. Sanj suddenly appears before him, and they start fighting. The killer takes a knife from his pocket, stabs Sanj, but Sanj throws him. He falls from the height and dies. Sanj falls in place from the severe injuries. Arrives at O with the officer. She fears for Sanj, holds his hand, but he dies, transforms into small pieces of light, and disappears. Sanj disappears, and his friends return to the time they lived in before. O is sad about her lover Sanj's death, isolates herself in her room. The officer visits her every day to check on her, but she refuses to meet him. But on the last visit, she meets him, agreeing they won't meet again, even in their next lives. O lives on memories of Sanj, continues her life, climbs the mountain again, hoping to meet Sanj. On the 1000th climb, a miracle happens, and he appears, telling her he died and was reborn again, as happened to him before, but this time as a human. The murder case and all previous cases are closed. News says the reason behind all the crimes was that the killer was an orphan, abandoned by his mother at an orphanage, suffered severe abuse from the manager, decided to take revenge when he met his lover, married her, stopped crimes for 28 years, but discovered his wife's affair, resumed his killing spree.